All right, let's dive into one of the internet's most wild and enduring legends, the story of a plane that took off in 1955, completely vanished, and then just reappeared almost 4 decades later. It's a story that really bends your mind, blurs the line between what's real and what's not, and it kicks off with a truly mind-bending question.
I mean, let's just put it right out there. Seriously, can a huge commercial airliner just disappear from the sky and then casually land 37 years later with every single person on board totally unchanged? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but for decades, the story of Flight 914 has made a lot of people wonder if it could be true. And this is the core of it all, right? The paradox. You've got this disappearance in 1955 and then a reappearance in 1992. That's a massive gap. 37 years, and it's the foundation of this whole crazy mystery. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so picture this. It's a clear summer day in 1955. Everything seems perfectly normal. You know, a routine flight, beautiful clear sky, and a destination that's only a few hours away. But this flight, well, it was about to become anything but routine. So here's how the story goes. It's July 2nd, 1955, and Pan Am Flight 914 is cruising along. Then, boom. Without any warning, it just blips off the radar. Gone. No mayday call, no sign of trouble, nothing. It's like the plane was just erased from the sky. Of course, a massive search gets underway, but they find absolutely zero, not a scrap of wreckage. Eventually, the case goes cold, and it's filed away as just another tragic, unexplained accident. And for 37 years, that's it. That's where the story ended. A cold case, a forgotten tragedy. Until one morning in 1992, hundreds of miles from where anyone last saw it, suddenly air traffic controllers down in Caracas, Venezuela, spot something weird on their radar. It's an old aircraft, a model they haven't seen in forever, and it's not on any of their schedules. They try to make contact, and the response they get sends an absolute chill through the control tower. Can you just imagine hearing that voiceover over the radio? A pilot sounding totally calm, reporting that he's on schedule for a landing? That was supposed to happen 37 years ago. The controllers are just stunned, completely confused. I mean, Pan Am Airlines hadn't even existed for a year at this point. So you have to wonder, what on earth was happening? So, confused, but also being very cautious, the ground crew actually allows the plane to land. And what they see next only makes the mystery that much deeper. This plane hasn't just come back from the sky. It seems like it's returned from another time entirely. According to the legend, the scene on the tarmac was just surreal. The plane itself was a total relic, a Douglas DC-4. The passengers step out, and they're all wearing 1950s fashion, looking completely bewildered. And the craziest part? They hadn't aged a day. When the pilot is told the date, the actual date, he panics. Before anyone can get any real answers, he orders everyone back on board, fires up the engines, and the plane just takes off without permission, disappearing back into the clouds, never to be seen again. And this right here is the moment the legend becomes legendary. It's the perfect cliffhanger, the perfect unsolved mystery. It leaves us asking these huge questions. Did this flight somehow slip through a crack in time? Was it some secret government experiment? Or is the truth something far more, well, ordinary? Well, it turns out, to find the real answer, we don't need to investigate wormholes or dig through classified documents. We just need to go back in time ourselves to a newspaper stand from the 1980s, because that's where this story actually began. Yep. The entire, elaborate, and totally fascinating story of Flight 914 was a complete work of fiction. It was originally published in the Weekly World News, a tabloid that was famous for creating these sensational, totally made-up stories about, bat boys and alien presidents. They actually printed the story not once, but 3 times over the years, changing up the details each time. And look, when you break it down and put the myth up against reality, the whole story just completely falls apart. The flight number, the pilot's name, the air traffic controller, all of it, made up. There are absolutely no records of a Pan Am flight disappearing in 1955. And think about it. An event this massive, a plane landing 37 years in the future, would have been the biggest news story of the century. Yet not a single reputable news source ever reported on it. So how did a silly tabloid story become this global legend? Well, it's a classic 3-step process. First, the fiction is created.
Then, as it gets retold over and over, people start adding new details, making it sound way more convincing. And finally, the internet comes along and acts like a massive amplifier, stripping away the original source and just presenting the story as a genuine, unsolved mystery for a whole new generation to discover.
So, okay, the story isn't real. Case closed. But that brings us to an even more interesting question, doesn't it? If it's totally fake, why do so many of us find it so compelling? Why do we want to believe it? I think the answer is that these stories, they speak to something fundamental inside of us. We're all fascinated by the impossible. The idea of time travel, of getting a second chance, of a mystery that just defies all the laws of physics. It's thrilling. It's kind of like a modern myth that gives us a brief escape from our ordinary, everyday world. And that's really the big takeaway here. The story of Flight 914 isn't actually about a plane that traveled through time. It's about our own desire for wonder. It just shows us that sometimes a good story can be way more powerful than the truth, and it makes us ask ourselves, what is it about the impossible that feels so possible? Thanks for joining me for this one.